our Lord God, Father of infinite goodness and love, before you I place myself at this moment, not by the strength of my own deeds, but with the humility of one who recognizes their own fragility and the need for your sanctifying grace. I know that you are the God who searches hearts, the knower of all things, and that in your presence there are no secrets that cannot be exposed to the light of your truth. Therefore, I come to you, not to ask for something that pleases me, but to surrender myself completely to your will, so that through this prayer, your mighty hand may reach me, touch me, and transform me from the inside out. The wounds of the soul, my God, are often invisible to human eyes, but perfectly known by you. They are marks left by painful experiences, by cruel words, by abandonment, by betrayal, by irreparable losses. These scars, which we often try to hide, prevent us from living fully, from loving truly, from trusting ourselves and others. They create invisible barriers that isolate us, make us bitter, resentful, and keep us from enjoying the peace and joy that you desire for us. It is as if we carry invisible weights that drag us down, hindering our journey toward the light. At this moment, Lord, I recognize that my internal struggles are not mere fleeting weaknesses, but rather reflections of spiritual battles waged in the core of my being. There are times when we feel trapped by negative thought patterns, by paralyzing fears, by a sense of inadequacy that seems to define us. These shadows, my God, obscure your light within us, preventing your truth from shining in our lives. It is a vicious cycle of pain and suffering that, without your divine intervention, seems endless. What I seek here, in this moment of intimacy with you, is not merely temporary relief from these afflictions, but a profound and authentic healing, a restoration that penetrates the deepest roots of my being, undoing the ties of the past that still bind me. I wish to be freed from the limiting beliefs that were imposed upon me or that I have adopted myself, those that whisper in my ear that I am not good enough, that I do not deserve love, that I am destined for failure. I know that in you, Lord, I find the strength to break these chains. I know that you are the physician of physicians, the only one capable of rendering an accurate diagnosis and offering effective treatment for the ailments of the soul. And your treatment, my God, is unconditional love, the forgiveness that purifies, the hope that renews. But for this treatment to take effect, I need to be open, receptive, willing to surrender to you what afflicts me, without reservation. I need to allow your light to penetrate the darkest areas of my heart, dispelling the gloom and bringing clarity. It is in this space of vulnerability and surrender that your power manifests most fully, when we allow ourselves to be seen by you in all our imperfection. It is then that we begin to experience true healing. It is not about ignoring the pain, but about transforming it, about allowing it to become a portal to deeper growth, to a spiritual maturity that previously seemed unattainable. It is a process, Lord, which I know requires patience and faith, but I trust that your hand will guide me every step of the way. Inner wounds often manifest in behaviors that distance us from those we loved, in disproportionate reactions to everyday situations, in a constant sense of emptiness. They are echoes of the past, reverberating in the present, clouding our vision of the future. We need an awakening, Lord, a spiritual rebirth that allows us to see life with new eyes, with your divine perspective. As I unite with you in this prayer, my sincere desire is that your transformative presence envelop me completely. May your Holy Spirit guide me on this journey of inner healing, revealing the areas that need your restorative touch. I do not merely wish to be healed, Lord, but transformed, molded according to your character, so that I may reflect your glory amidst this world. May this prayer be the beginning of a profound process of renewal, where the old structures of pain are demolished to make way for new foundations of love, peace, and joy in you. Father, inner healing also manifests in the breaking of prides that enslave us. Frequently, we erect walls of self-sufficiency to mask our pains, refusing to ask for help, fearful of being seen as weak or incapable. This rigidity hardens the heart, creating self-imposed isolation that distances us from genuine communion, both with you and with our brethren. However, true strength lies in recognizing our dependence from you, in admitting that, without your grace, we are dust. The humility to acknowledge one's own need is not weakness, but rather the gateway to true liberation, paving the way for your power to be perfected in our frailty. Just as a sculptor patiently removes excess stone to reveal the hidden beauty in raw material, your Spirit acts within us, shaping, refining, and smoothing the rough edges that distort us. This delicate yet profound operation involves confronting irrational fears that paralyze us in the face of new opportunities or healthy relationships. Consider that persistent fear of not being good enough, which prevents us from accepting a new professional challenge or declaring our feelings to someone. This fear, often rooted in past experiences of rejection or failure, acts as an anchor that prevents us from navigating toward more promising horizons. Your word, however, assures us that perfect love casts out all fear. I seek, therefore, to embrace this truth, allowing your love to unravel the knots of dread that oppress me, replacing anxiety with confidence in your constant care. Furthermore, it is crucial that the journey of inner healing also encompasses self-forgiveness for mistakes made. The burden of guilt and excessive self-criticism is an overwhelming weight that erodes our self-esteem and traps us in a cycle of unproductive remorse. Recognizing that we are fallible, that we err and will continue to err, is an essential part of maturity and growth. However, when we cling to these errors, we prevent your mercy from fully enveloping us. I forgive myself, Lord, for all my failings, for all my stumbles, for all the times I have failed to live according to your precepts. May your forgiveness free me from self-condemnation, allowing me to move forward with lightness and renewed hope toward the future you have prepared for me. It is also important to consider the healing of frustrated expectations. How often do we place our hopes in projects, in people, in situations, only to be confronted with disappointment? These disillusionments, when not addressed with your wisdom, can generate deep cynicism, a disbelief in the inherent goodness of things and people. We need to learn to surrender to you not only our plans and desires, but also our expectations, trusting that your sovereign plan far exceeds what we can conceive. If a door, when one door closes, Father, it is because you are opening an even greater window, brimming with opportunities we could not have even imagined. Resilience in the face of adversity, fueled by faith in your providence, is a powerful testament to the healing you accomplish within us. Ultimately, inner healing is reflected in the capacity to re-establish healthy connections and to offer genuine love and compassion. As our own wounds begin to mend, it becomes easier to reach out to others, to offer a supportive shoulder, to share the hope that sustains us. Love for our neighbor, the very essence of your commandment, can only fully blossom in a heart that has been healed and restored by your presence. By healing me, Lord, you empower me to be an instrument of your love in this world, to spread your light, and to bear witness to the transformation you have wrought in my own life. Lord, at this moment, we turn our attention to healing the feelings of invisibility and rediscovering our intrinsic worth, which seem to have been obscured by a subtle yet persistent veil of devaluation. Often, the pain of feeling unseen, disregarded, or secondary in our own lives, whether within the family, at work, or even in social circles, leaves deep imprints on our self-perception. This sensation can stem from constant criticism, a lack of recognition for our efforts, or the experience of being frequently overlooked in conversations or important decisions. To effectively combat this wound, it is essential for your light to penetrate these darknesses, revealing the unique value that resides within each of us, a value that does not depend on external approval or the recognition of others. The way we internalize these negative experiences powerfully shapes our self-image. When we are repeatedly silenced or our feelings are invalidated, we can begin to believe that our voice is unimportant, that our contributions are insignificant. This belief then manifests as behavioral reticence, a fear of expressing opinions or voicing needs, thereby solidifying the cycle of invisibility. What we seek now, with your help, is to dismantle these self-deprecating thought patterns, replacing them with the understanding that our existence possesses an intrinsic purpose and meaning, regardless of external circumstances. Furthermore, let us address the healing of silent resentment, cultivated by the feeling of having been overlooked or wronged in everyday situations, without a clear opportunity to express the hurt. Consider, for instance, when a colleague receives credit for arduous work you accomplished collaboratively, or when a family member consistently disregards your most considered suggestions. This accumulation of minor grievances can morph into a latent bitterness that erodes inner peace and impairs the capacity to savor good times. Releasing this burden necessitates the courage to confront the pain that engendered such hurt, allowing your transforming grace to dissolve the venom of resentment, thereby creating space for forgiveness and the renewal of hope in relationships. From this vantage point, inner healing also manifests in the rediscovery of self-compassion. something frequently overlooked when we are fixated on our perceived shortcomings. Instead of mentally castigating ourselves for every misstep, we are called to treat ourselves with the same kindness and understanding we would extend to a cherished friend navigating similar adversities. This self-compassion is not complacency. It is the acknowledgement of our shared humanity and the inevitability of imperfections in the learning journey. It is allowing the love emanating from you to envelop us, validating our experience and fortifying our resilience in the face of life's vicissitudes. Furthermore, it is imperative to address the healing of a paralyzing fear of vulnerability in intimate relationships, a barrier that often arises from past experiences of emotional betrayal or excessive exposure of our feelings without reciprocation. This apprehension leads us to erect defenses, to close ourselves off from deeper connections in an effort to stave off further pain. However, genuine intimacy flourishes in mutual trust and the courage to reveal oneself authentically. Therefore, I implore your spirit to empower me to dismantle these protective ramparts, enabling me to open my heart with confidence, trusting that in you I find a safe harbor for my exposed soul, where I shall be loved and accepted unconditionally. Lord, at this very moment, we turn our gaze toward the healing of a particular sense of deception, from which we have become victims of our own making, through self-sabotage. This tendency to undermine our own progress, often unconsciously, arises when anxiety about the future or excessive rumination over past mistakes prevents us from simply existing in the present and acting constructively. It is as if, with every step forward we take, an internal force pulls us back, obscuring a clear vision of the subsequent steps and feeding a relentless cycle of doubt. This self-sabotage can manifest in myriad ways: chronic procrastination on crucial tasks, self-serving justifications for not embarking on a promising project, or even the conjuring of catastrophic scenarios that paralyze us before we even act. You, who know the depths of our thoughts and intentions, can unveil and dissipate this fog of self-destruction, revealing the truth of our potential and the certainty of your guidance. A profound aspect of this self-sabotage is the internalization of critical voices, not merely external ones, but those that have become familiar echoes within our own minds. When these narratives of inadequacy take root, we tend to act in accordance with them, even if they are distortions of reality. Consider, for instance, the inclination to dismiss a sincere compliment we receive, responding with a dismissive "it was nothing" or minimizing the effort invested. This reflexive response is a signal that the belief in one's own insufficiency is so ingrained that external validation causes discomfort, as it contradicts the internal narrative that defines us. What we seek now is the replacement of these voices with your truth, the one that declares us beloved, capable, and valuable children, restoring the correct perspective of ourselves. Furthermore, inner healing extends to releasing an excessive attachment to predefined expectations of how life should be, an often unrealistic blueprint that blinds us to the blessings we already possess. This fixation on an idealized script can lead to constant frustration, dissatisfaction with the present, and an inability to appreciate opportunities that arise on unexpected paths. When we rigidly cling to a specific plan, we fail to perceive that your plan for us is infinitely richer and grander than we could ever imagine. The liberation from this attachment involves accepting that life is dynamic, fluid, and that beauty often resides in adaptation and discovery, not solely in the execution of a pre-established plan. On the other hand, the journey of inner healing also calls us to confront and transform patterns of exhaustive perfectionism, which impel us to seek an unattainable standard of excellence in all that we do. This drive, while seemingly virtuous, often masks an underlying fear of failure or judgment, leading to emotional and physical exhaustion, and an inability to complete tasks for fear of not achieving idealized perfection. Perfectionism prevents us from experiencing the joy of the process, focusing excessively on the final outcome and in the minute details. We must recognize that imperfection is an intrinsic part of the human condition and that divine grace sustains us even in our failings. We also need to address the healing of a subconscious tendency to seek external validation for our sense of worth. When our self-esteem is conditioned by the approval of others, we become vulnerable to emotional instability, as we rely on others' perceptions to feel good about ourselves. This incessant pursuit of recognition can lead us down paths that are not our own, to compromises that distance us from our true purposes, all in the name of being accepted or admired. True security and value come from recognizing that we are loved for who you are, irrespective of any merit or achievement. Consequently, inner healing manifests in the ability to cultivate deep and constant gratitude, even amidst difficulties. By directing our attention to the myriad blessings, however small, that punctuate our lives, we begin to shift our focus from scarcity to abundance. This change in perspective, fueled by your grace, has the power to transform how we face challenges, allowing us to recognize the lessons and growth that emerge even from the most arduous experiences. Gratitude, therefore, becomes a balm for the wounded soul, a constant reminder of your faithfulness and your unwavering love. Lord, we now pray for the restoration of our capacity to establish authentic and deep relationships, freeing us from the pitfalls of superficiality and social inhibition that prevent us from truly connecting with others. Many emotional wounds have manifested in our social interactions, making us reclusive, suspicious, or overly dependent on the opinions of others to validate our existence. For example, the experience of being ridiculed in public during childhood can generate a persistent fear of expressing our opinions in meetings or debates, leading us to a self-imposed silence that deprives us of the richness of idea exchange and the building of meaningful connections. You, who know every nuance of our hearts, have the power to untie these knots of embarrassment, reintroducing us to the joy of genuine communion. Furthermore, it is crucial to address the healing of a tendency to project our own insecurities onto others, interpreting their actions or words negatively without concrete basis. This projection, for instance, can lead us to believe that a colleague who did not greet us effusively in the hallway is deliberately ignoring us, when in fact, in truth, they may simply be absorbed in their own thoughts or concerns. This distortion of reality, fueled by our own insecurities, erects invisible barriers in our relationships, undermining the possibility of mutual understanding and genuine connection. May your light dispel this fog of distrust, allowing us to see others through the lens of your love and compassion. Another crucial aspect of inner healing involves releasing chronic guilt for failing to meet others' expectations, especially those imposed unreasonably or never clearly communicated. This unnecessary burden, such as the pressure to perpetually please or never disappoint, drains our vital energy and prevents us from living in accordance with our true essence. Consider the weight of feeling The truth is, we cannot do all things, and your grace what is genuinely kind, with wisdom and discernment, without sacrifice. This moment, we pray, out for the restoration of our capacity to establish healthy boundaries with difficulty in saying no, in expressing ourselves, or in extricating ourselves from an underlying fear of rejection or abandonment. For instance, the inability to decline a request that overwhelms us, for fear of displeasing a friend or colleague, can lead to burnout and growing resentment. You, Lord, who have set the ultimate example in how to relate, teach us the importance of safeguarding our spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being, so that we may love and serve more fully. May your strength empower us to communicate our boundaries with clarity, love, and firmness, honoring both ourselves and others. Finally, we implore healing from any tendency to excessively idealize others, a pitfall that frequently precedes profound disappointments. This mindset, which expects perfection from friends, partners, or family, can lead us to project imagined qualities onto people, creating unrealistic expectations that are inevitably shattered. The experience of discovering flaws in someone we deeply admired can be painful and make us cynical about human nature. Instead, may we learn to love as individuals in their entirety, with their virtues and imperfections, acknowledging the redeeming grace that operates in each life, including our own, and discerning wisely those with whom we can share intimacy. Lord, at this moment, we seek healing for repressed anger and masked resentment, which manifests in disproportionate reactions and an accumulation of unexpressed frustrations. Consider, for example, the case of someone who, for years, harbors a silent grievance against a family member due to an inheritance dispute, but who, instead of addressing the issue, emotionally withdraws, exhibiting irritability in trivial situations, such as a delayed package delivery or an innocent comment from a coworker. This outburst of fury directed at inappropriate targets is a clear sign that the original wounds have not been treated, and that the psychic energy expended in repressing pain is vibrating at destructive frequencies. You, who are the source of all peace and reconciliation, can intervene in this vicious cycle, dissolving the poison of stagnation with the balm of your understanding and forgiveness. Furthermore, it is necessary to look with honesty at the healing of a compulsive need to control our environment and the people around us, often rooted in a deep fear of the unforeseen and of vulnerability. Imagine a mother who, observing her child playing in the garden, feels overwhelming anxiety, rushing to limit the scope of his exploration with imaginary fences, insisting that he not get dirty or hurt himself. This overprotectiveness, though born of a desire to care, is often a reflection of one's own inability to cope with the uncertainty and fragility inherent in life. In your presence, we wish to release this rigidity, embracing the beauty of the disorder you have planned, trusting that your sovereign hand guides every step, even when we cannot see the path. Additionally, we focus on liberation from a pattern of relentless self-judgment, which accuses us with every slip, every failure to meet self-imposed standards of perfection. Let us consider a graphic artist who, after completing a visually impeccable project, insists on reviewing every detail of the final artwork, finding non-existent flaws and delaying delivery for fear that the work will not be considered perfect by her peers. This incessant pursuit of perfection, when it becomes obsessive, paralyzes creative action and steals the joy of accomplishment. It is the opposite of grace, which assures us that we are accepted and loved, not for our merits, but for your mercy. We cry out for your light to teach us to embrace imperfection as an integral part of the creative process and the human journey. Consequently, we require healing from a tendency to incessantly compare ourselves with others, fueling feelings of envy and inadequacy. Consider a young professional who, upon viewing the apparent success of their colleagues on social media, feels a pang in their chest, questioning their own progress and worth. This constant comparison, fueled by a distortion of the reality presented online, robs us of our energy and distracts us from our own unique calling. What we aspire to, in your holy presence, is the ability to recognize and celebrate the victories of others without diminishing our own self-worth. For each of us has a singular path ordained by you. Finally, we seek the restoration of our capacity to healthily accept and process sadness and loss, without falling into a state of chronic victimization or persistent denial. Imagine someone who, after the loss of a loved one, refuses to weep or speak of the pain, attempting to carry on as if nothing had happened. This denial, while perhaps seeming a display of strength, impedes the processing of grief and can lead to psychic and physical manifestations of repressed suffering. We desire to learn from you, Lord, to navigate the waters of sorrow, knowing that there is a time to weep and a time to rejoice, and that in your presence, even the deepest pain can be transformed into hope and growth. As we reflect upon the paths our souls have trod in this intimate conversation, we perceive how the diverse facets of human experience, when exposed to your transformative light, converge toward a point of profound renewal. The shadows that once obscured our vision, and the burdens that dragged us away from fullness, begin to dissipate as your redeeming grace operates an internal alchemy, transmuting fragility into strength, doubt into conviction, and pain into learning. The fragments of our history, marked by unspoken silences and invisible struggles, acquire new meaning when viewed through the lens of your unconditional love. It is as if each experience, however challenging it may have been, were a distinct thread, and when gathered under your guidance, they weave a tapestry of resilience and profound wisdom, unveiling a tapestry that is both intricate and intrinsically beautiful. Within this weaving, our grasp of our inherent worth deepens, unbound from external validation or the constraining narratives that once defined us. The journey itself guides us to realize that the barriers we erected, once perceived as protection, now revealed themselves as confines that inhibited us from experiencing the freedom and depth of genuine communion, both with ourselves and with others. As we draw nearer to the conclusion of this sharing, our perception sharpens. Inner healing is not an isolated event, but a continuous process of surrender and trust, where each step forward serves as a testament to your constant and active presence in our lives, shaping and strengthening us for the days ahead. We discern an implicit call to embrace this transformation, not as a burden, but as an invitation to a more fulfilling existence. aligned with the purpose you have charted for each of us. The manner in which past experiences, internalized fears, and unfulfilled expectations intertwine offers a precious map for understanding our present reactions. However, more significant than the mapping itself is the discovery of the path that liberates us from these fetters, a path paved by faith in your capacity to restore what seemed irreparably damaged and to bring forth a future of renewed hope and